Now that Steele's gone.
You should not know this.
The major employers organize crime.
But they're too late.
Braden is an Irish name. St. Patrick's Day is a drinking holiday. And Ted Braden liked to drink. To his good fortune, Pittsburgh is ranked among the top U.S. cities for St. Patrick's Day celebrations. The whole town goes green. People, streets, the buildings, the bridges, even the rivers, sometimes. 1982 again. Two men walk confidently down a sidewalk on their way to a St. Patrick's Day party of their own. Only one guest is invited to their party. But he doesn't know it yet. They're dressed like upper-class businessmen. They stride like they belong, with a look to match. And green is the theme of their party, too.
You should not know this. This is an active investigation built on public records, contemporaneous reporting, and first-hand interviews. The accused are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Some matters remain unresolved, and uncertainty is clearly stated. Some names have been changed, and graphic detail has been withheld. Discretion advised.
Where the Monongahela and the Allegheny River join. Let's go east across the country to Pittsburgh.
From the north side to the south side. Brentwood, one of Pittsburgh's 90 neighborhoods. Familiar year, 1982. St. Patrick's Day. A residential neighborhood. Local shops. Decent people. Normal life. Men in suits and ties don't stand out. Two well-dressed men approached a Purolator armored van terminal. They looked official. Purolator operated armored cars. They moved money. Cash. Over the road. And a lot of it. The men were outfitted in trench coats, shirts, ties, snazzy hats, and aviator-style shades. They approached the guard, flashed homemade FBI credentials, and told the guard they had information that Purolator was about to be hit. Then, they hit it. They waited for an armored car to leave. That meant the garage door opened. They would have 15 seconds till it closed again. Well, the door did open. The armored car did leave. The men dove under the garage door and inside the armored car terminal. 2 on 1. The men and the guard. They overpowered the guard, took his weapon, cuffed him, then taped his ankles and eyes. The guard was able to determine these criminals were communicating with at least one accomplice by walkie-talkie. They called in a vehicle. A driver arrived. The garage door opened. The driver backed in the vehicle. There was endless prepackaged, ready-to-go cash in that terminal. All these guys had to do was load it. And they did. Crisp, clean 100s. $2.5 million later, they were gone. A $100,000 reward was offered to anyone who could identify the well-dressed men. Then up to $250,000. Nothing. The FBI even tried hypnosis on the guard to recover details. Nothing. So, was the guard involved? Well, he passed a lie detector test. Ruled out. Nothing. They examined whether the Purolator heist resembled other robberies attributed to organized crime. And maybe to Ted Braden.
He did work for the mafia.
The FBI investigated the Purolator heist. We told Notorious Pittsburgh author Chris Whitlatch about Ted Braden. And he did an investigation of his own.
I'm really curious about the time frame that Ted is supposed to be in Pittsburgh. That robbery at the shop and safe takes place in 1982 in February. The very next month in Pittsburgh is one of the biggest robberies in the history of the city.
There are similarities.
March of 1982, 3 men pull off a heist at the Purolator Armored Car Company in Brentwood. And so 2 of them sneak through under the gate. They pose as FBI agents and they disarm the one guard on duty and they walk out of there with approximately $2.1 million. The third was the getaway driver.
Robberies carried out by small crews of men from different places.
The first armored car robbery happened in Pittsburgh as well in the 1920s. And that crew was a combination of a crew from Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Detroit. So you see that sort of Midwest relationship all the way back into the 20s of, organized crime here in Pittsburgh.
Detroit again.
Detroit is very interesting.
Ted's accomplice, Bernie, was from Detroit. Organized crime families just wanted to keep their hands clean. That's why they hired associates. Bottom feeders, really. They did the dirty work. They were drifters, loners. They teamed up and dressed like they belonged.
I see the alphabet boys, as Drew likes to call them, pop up again in this story, flashing their homemade FBI credentials. Why do they keep coming up in these stories?
That Purolator job has Ted vibes.
That is interesting.
They got away with a lot of money.
$2.5 million in today's money is worth $8.5 million, so pretty significant.
And again, well-dressed men. I mean, it does have a similar feel.
Yeah, how they were dressed might be the difference kind of between petty crime versus professional crime. I just picture professional criminals looking real sharp while doing it. Petty people just throwing on a ski mask and diving in.
Shop and Save didn't cough up over $2 million.
Obviously, I've seen the photograph of the CCTV within the store. We're not quite sure who the two men are in the photograph, but that does not look like a photograph taken in 1982 to me. It looks like a 1940s gangsters. So they're dressing up smartly to rob these places, and so that is a bit of a similarity between the two. It's not like they would be fitting in. I mean, in some crimes, you can imagine people dressing a certain way to fit in with the way everybody around them looked. Dressed in suits and long trench coats would probably stand out in that situation, I would have thought, because I think most people who go shopping just wear casual clothes, and especially in the 80s. I mean, the 80s was the bright decade, wasn't it? And these guys were dressed, I mean, they were literally dressed as gangsters out of a 1940s movie. Does seem to be an MO.
So he's surrounded by crime, both organized and petty, and we know from the evidence gathered that he was involved in at least one very significant robbery. So it's like, who knows how deeply he was involved and how much activity he took part in without getting caught, because that's stuff we wouldn't know about. I mean, just in a general sense, that seems very likely that he was involved in something here. I mean, the level of organization of some of these crimes seems large enough that there's probably a central authority instructing them, guiding them, funding them, perhaps. Just like The Godfather. Wow.
Yeah.
Lots of money was never enough.
For case files, documents, photographs, and exclusive content, subscribe at youshouldnotknowthis.org.
Ted Braden's alleged crimes appear bigger than Ted Braden.
If I don't see us no more, it means the boss got mad at me.
Ted allegedly had a mysterious boss.
We always thought that, maybe they killed him or something.
Let's find him.
Even more job opportunities exist in trucking, a growing business that fills the need for speedy, flexible, and personalized service. There are almost 5 million trucks in operation, and most of them in private business. Products must be transported swiftly. Raw materials to manufacture.
What I really got into in my research was the city is a bunch of different neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods were kind of built ethnically.
We start the search in Pittsburgh's North Side neighborhood. Early 80s again. Home to Shop and Save, Shaffer's Lounge, and Italians.
One of the most interesting parts of the city is the north side of the city. And that's because it used to be its own city. And Pittsburgh kind of usurped it and took it over.
Then the notorious element usurped the north side.
The north side has always been kind of the Wild Wild West, right? It's always embraced its independence.
Not as metaphoric as you might think.
Yeah, the north side is kind of the proving ground for crime in Pittsburgh, if you will.
The early 80s crushed your average family, not your average crime family.
Steel, the nation builder, plays the leading
But the economy prompted crime family change.
Yeah, you had declining steel mill operations starting in that early 80s period. It changed organized crime in Pittsburgh, and organized crime it adapts to the current economy better than some businesses do.
And for the future, it can be confidently predicted that steel will continue to be the backbone of our civilization and our progress.
As that changed in the early 80s, you had a shift from organized crime in Pittsburgh that really got into the drug trade. So they looked for making their money in other places, and as the city declined, drug use increased. They built a sort of second empire here in the 80s on the back of the drug trade.
Organized crime had always been in the bars. Their patrons were out of work. It called for a change.
What changed the most is that a lot of the steel workers were their customers, right? You made a very good living working for the steel mills. And there was a bar right outside of every factory. So that was open 24 hours. Basically, whatever shift you were on, when you were off your shift, you could go out and get a shot and a beer.
In the early 80s, they moved to sell drugs out of their bars. And their bars still needed whiskey.
The dark cloud of unemployment hangs over the lives of 11 million of our friends, neighbors, and family. At times, the sheer weight of all these facts and figures make them hard for anyone to understand. What do they really mean? And what can we do to make them better?
John LaRocca,
Well,
longtime leader of the Pittsburgh crime family.
Before Prohibition, you had no set organized crime family in Pittsburgh. You had a lot of gangs running around. And then it consolidated after Prohibition into one family. And the golden ages were run by John Sebastian LaRocca.
By the time Ted Braden would arrive in Pittsburgh, the golden age was tarnished.
When you get into the late 70s and early 80s, you have an aging LaRocca running the organization. Some of his top lieutenants start to die. LaRocca gets sick in the early 80s, and his third person in the organization goes to jail in 1979. And so what you have is the fourth person in the organization, Michael Genovese, who starts as consigliere in the late 70s. He moves to acting boss in the early 80s as LaRocca is sort of semi-retired.
New leadership. And they were hiring.
That's sort of the picture that you're in. You have the decline of the golden age. The family didn't always do its dirty work, right? They found people that could do its dirty work.
People who also had ties to Ted Braden.
They ended up with a very strong relationship to the Pagans Motorcycle Club here in Pittsburgh. The Pagans are an interesting connection for the family. So the Pagans kind of provided that sort of extra layer of management within that drug trade. They were able to move drugs very easily through the club. They were able to enforce other drug dealers within that network and make sure things happened the way they needed to happen for the family.
Sounds like leadership.
When I hear that Ted refers to his boss and he's scared of his boss, that could mean a couple of things. If Ted was connected through the family, through the Pagans Motorcycle Club, well, the boss of the Pagans would scare me enough. I'd be worried that I need to do my job, whatever that is.
Trucking handles more than 75% of all freight. It is a hometown business to every community it serves. The ultimate good of this total transport service is its benefit to the consumer. And it remains a person-to-person service.
Ted Braden moved cargo as a truck driver in 1982. The Pittsburgh crime family moved cargo too. They've moved it by truck, by foot, by water if they had to, even by air.
Well, hijacking was one of the big, industries.
One thing Ted Braden could do was move cargo.
Prohibition really made organized crime. So it consolidated organized crime into the families, and less so on the gangs. It, pioneered moving goods illegally around the country, but you needed truck drivers that could help you in this operation, in this organization. Truck drivers need extra money, and that's prime recruitment for the family to, use you as an associate, because, they'll help you make some extra money. You help them get some illegal goods that they can then move or sell if they've stolen them, and, it was good business. And so the truck drivers were kind of the low-level employees in that operation.
Extra money, truck driver, low level, Ted Braden.
He'd get a phone call and he'd have to go. I always said, well, if I don't see you again, the boss got mad at me. And then maybe a month later, he'd be back.
Ted is interesting. He has some really interesting training that would be respected by a number of people, including the mafia.
It's very interesting that, the bars were run by the mafia. If you've got a truck full of whiskey and you want to make a bit of money out of it, that's your obvious choice.
Quick cash and go.
Oh, you wonder what percentage the person who stole it would actually get themselves.
10, 15%, who knows?
Yeah, something like that.
Were the Pagans based out of Pittsburgh?
Well, they're in like 23 states. Pittsburgh, too. They're still around.
I've never heard of them. I mean, and usually you think of motorcycle gangs, you have number one, Hells Angels, of course, through history, and then big competitor of the Hells Angels still.
So this was the biker gang that was hanging out in Braden's bar, basically, and they're tied to the mafia.
Did he wear a helmet?
No. Sunglasses, I bet. To me, this leads us back to the phone calls in the bar.
A little phone behind the bar.
He was obviously getting phone calls from someone that he didn't particularly either want to be phoning his own home or wherever he was living at the time. It was someone he didn't want anyone else to, listen in on or really know about, I think. That kind of does lead you down that sort of mafia organization route. It's kind of got that feel to it.
You help uncover unpredictable buried truth. Subscribe. You should not know this.org.
Ted Braden's boss might be hiding in plain sight. Maybe in the Pagans Motorcycle Club. Maybe in the Pittsburgh crime family. Or maybe back in Ohio. John LaRocca took control of the Pittsburgh crime family in 1956 and expanded the operation into the Youngstown region of Ohio. Girard, Warren, and Niles, Ohio. Satellites of Youngstown.
Youngstown's interesting because it was kind of like the border area between the Pittsburgh and Cleveland families. And at times they fought over it.
Ted would claim a Niles Main Street address as his home, time and time again. Thing is, it isn't a home. It's an industrial building. At the time, home to a trucking company.
Yeah, so, you recruited who you could recruit to help you run your businesses. And so having a trucking company involved as a front doesn't surprise me one bit. Having Ted's connections to Ohio, having a large presence of organized crime centered in Youngstown, that would make sense if Ted was looking to sort of hide his activities of what he was doing, that he would register an address to the trucking company outside of Youngstown. That particular sort of group of the Pittsburgh family operated somewhat independently and autonomously throughout most of its history. It was sort of like a mini family under the family in Youngstown. And so there were a lot of activities centered in Youngstown. There was less federal presence there, so it was easier to operate.
Ted was in the right place at the right time with the right skills to do the wrong things. This is an investigation, after all, and nothing here doesn't add up.
You could easily, from Youngstown, move goods, move people, move whatever to Pittsburgh or Cleveland, because it sits kind of almost directly in between them, very, very easily and quickly. A lot of warehouses were used in Youngstown to service these areas as well. That may be Ted's connection into the mafia, is through Ohio.
Longtime Pittsburgh crime family boss John LaRocca was strong and stable, with union ties. But LaRocca was aging out. Rising to replace him was Michael Genovese, with drug ties. By the early 80s, Genovese's aggressive moves drew attention. Genovese got greedy, and people went to prison. This was Ted Braden's Pittsburgh.
The mafia has always cultivated relationships with police officers. It's not that hard to do here in Pittsburgh. The local police forces are small. They're overtaxed. They're not paid well. So, again, you're basically opening up an opportunity for organized crime to gain influence.
Pittsburgh's crime history wasn't an episode.
And they were able to do that here in Pittsburgh.
It was a movie. Ted Braden couldn't comprehend a man finding satisfaction installing a roof on a house that wasn't his, and not earning enough money to buy a beer after doing it. Ted would rather do it his way. Legal or not.
I found that we have a rich crime history in the city going back to its earliest founding.
The foundation was laid. Ted just had to step into it.
We can do it by slowly but surely working our way back to prosperity that will mean jobs for all who are willing to work and fulfillment for all who still cherish the American dream. We can do it, my fellow Americans, by staying the course. Thank you, good night, and God bless you.
When the economy crashes, like it did in Pittsburgh in the late 70s and early 80s, real estate prices decline, and Pittsburgh inadvertently provided organized crime's infrastructure through cheap real estate.
In the 70s and 80s, a lot of vice moved downtown because the buildings became cheap, and they were perfect for putting a X-rated bookstore on the bottom and a massage parlor, i.e. prostitution, on the second floor, because you had back entrances through the alleys into those buildings.
If you thought the pretty girl upstairs kept the money you gave her, yeah, you were wrong.
It's essential that every drinker understand how alcohol affects his body and face the possibility of becoming an alcoholic. And he should realize that alcohol is a potential menace to community safety as well as to his personal health.
Ted Braden knew liquor. Bars have liquor. And thanks to cheap real estate, the Pittsburgh crime family had bars.
So the bars are an interesting group, because you get a lot of the illegal gambling is in the back room of a bar here in Pittsburgh still to this day. So the bars have always played a big role. Those were the sort of outlets for illegal gambling, for bookmaking, for the illegal lottery. Those were all run through the bars across Western Pennsylvania. The bars in Pittsburgh have a long history. There's always been rules against them set by the local government. And so they've always been a little bit on the gray side.
Bars and the gray side are what Ted called home.
In fact, the term speakeasy supposedly was coined here in Pittsburgh, not during Prohibition, but actually during the late 1800s, when there was a statute against the bars and they were open illegally. And the woman bartender on duty told her patrons to speak easy because the law was about that night.
Ted had a reputation for being tight-lipped. Impossibly so. Violence is messy. So organized crime embraced cooperation. Cooperation led to mutually beneficial relationships.
You've got a supportive community for organized crime that had a chance to make a little bit of extra money. And, you know, it's sometimes hard here in Pittsburgh to make ends meet. And so a little bit of extra money goes a long way. So you have normal people running numbers for the mob in every community here in Pittsburgh.
A system that attracted people like Ted Braden at a time when legality was a gray area.
You'll hear stories of, oh, my uncle used to, take me to the local fish and game club and buy me a hot dog and drop his numbers money off. That's just how it kind of developed here. And so here in Pittsburgh, there's a little bit of a nonchalant attitude towards it.
Easy to slide under the radar.
Normal, regular people did a little bit of extra, even if it crossed the line, just so they could make a little bit of extra money, get the little extras for their family.
Even easier when the radar isn't monitored.
Good modern roads are a welcome sight to truck drivers. Often they're called by different names. Toll roads, turnpikes, freeways, parkways, superhighways. All of them mean safe, steady driving for long-distance trips.
Ted Braden was a truck driver. If the Pittsburgh crime family built his foundation, the federal government built his network, the interstate highway system. And a truck driver using the highway system, well, it's under the radar.
There have always been connections between the families. It's only 4 hours between Pittsburgh and Detroit. It's only an hour and a half between Pittsburgh and Cleveland. It makes sense that they would, share resources like that.
Every city had a crime family. Sometimes they cooperated. Sometimes they went to war. When it came to their dirty work, they hired that out. Enter the associates.
The sort of low level of organized crime, those individuals, those associates would probably move around to wherever there was business and opportunity.
Ted had the foundation, the determination, and now the means. Pittsburgh was a tight-knit place. That could lead to awkward situations.
It's weird in Pittsburgh because you could go to a family where one person was connected and the other brother was not. And that was fine. Those lines were respected.
Don't ask. Don't tell. After all, family is what makes the mafia.
In fact, the nephew of John LaRocca, he was a pagan himself. And so he was the sort of direct liaison, for a better word, between the motorcycle club and the mafia.
Ted Braden frequents a pagan's bar. Ted's friends allege mafia ties. Now, confirmed connections between the mafia and the pagans. Braden is not an Italian name. Ted was not family. He was not a made man. That was reserved for the Italians, for family. But Ted did make his own way, complete with trench coats, briefcases, and pinstripe suits.
You've got this mysterious boss. What was his phrase? If you don't see me, the boss got mad at me. I mean, that you might as well spell that out. I mean, that's MAFIA. I can't think of any other boss. So yeah, it's got to be mafia. I can't think of an organisation that you would work for where if the boss got angry with you, he would, bury you in some concrete.
Yeah, it's got to be somebody big enough to be able to do something with an entire trailer full of whiskey. I mean, that's got to be a big organization in and of itself.
The phone calls that he seemed to be taking seemed quite secretive.
Okay, so did the owner know? How much did he know about the calls? Jerry, Shaffer's Lounge owner.
I lean towards no. I think he may have known something was going on, but what he didn't know protected him.
I kind of lean towards yes, actually, but more in a just look the other way kind of thing. Just I'm not involved, but I don't want to be involved, but I don't want any trouble, so I'm going to let it happen. What's going to happen here? Maybe that'd be my guess. Just because how could you not know something was going on? At least
it's probably a forced not knowing. Yeah,
you see nothing.
I do know, but I don't know. Talk about someone having their fingers in lots of different pies. Mafia, biker gangs, who knows what else. For a guy who had a drinking problem, he obviously had a drinking problem, and he does seem to have some physical problem.
Slouched over. Could be from the truck. Or an injury we don't know about.
There's obviously something going on there. And I'm thinking about this as well. You're doing all these jobs, all these robberies, and you're middle-aged, you've got a drinking problem, which is ironic for someone whose job is driving, and driving long distances for a long time. A person with an alcohol problem is probably the worst person to be a truck driver, but he seems to be able to do it.
They're more about loyalty than anything.
And we know he didn't talk.
Will he talk if he gets caught? Will he talk if he gets caught? He won't.
I mean, how can he do that? How can he do that? How can he be that wasted, let's be honest, wasted, and not reveal a thing?
You should not know this is not an accusation, nor is it an attempt to reframe, glorify, or sensationalize. It is the newly discovered documentation of one man's remarkable, not honorable, life by definition. There are people who experience Ted Braden in ways documents cannot. If you knew Ted, please reach out to the investigation, publicly or privately, on the record or off. Make contact at youshouldnotknowthis.org.
That Purolator robbery was a big deal for a long time. Eventually, information leaked. In 1990, an informant claimed Eugene Gino Chiarelli masterminded the Purolator robbery.
That robbery coinciding with Ted being in Pittsburgh makes me think that maybe he had a connection to Gino Chiarelli. Chiarelli was the one that masterminded that robbery. Now, it's never been solved, never been proved that Chiarelli was behind the robbery, but the star witness in the RICO case told the FBI that, yes, he did plan that.
Gino Chiarelli was a leader.
Chiarelli has some, skills with his hands. He was a contractor. He was bold. He was brazen. He was creative. All of the things that he might have saw in Ted as well.
Frank felt it.
I know he worked for someone big. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind.
Chris Whitlatch feels it.
That's all speculation, but I'm very curious about that relationship.
Ted's alleged shop and save robbery occurred the 5th of February, 1982. The Purolator job was the 17th of March, 82. Ted was tied up at the time in the Erie County Jail. He didn't do the Purolator job. But you have to wonder, had Ted been sober on his Ohio Turnpike journey, would the Purolator story be another Ted Braden story?
That's an interesting connection that I think, you might want to explore a little bit more.
Like Ted, Chiarelli had a knack for going big.
Gino was also famous for another robbery in 1986 where he cut into a bank's roof and lowered himself into the vault to rob it.
And getting away with it.
Were Gino and Ted working together at that point in Pittsburgh?
Did we find Ted Braden's boss?
Well, if I don't see him again, the boss got mad at me.
You tell me.
You should not know this, but they're too late.